Welcome to the Inspired Riding Audio Summit. We're going to be talking about the benefits of intuition in the horse world. I have with me today Melody Semmler. Melody is a business coach for people in horse-related businesses. With over 25 years of experience in marketing, branding, copywriting, web, and graphic design, she is a down-to-earth person who doesn't use fancy jargon or make anyone feel stupid for asking questions. Based in Australia, she serves clients from all around the world, and her podcast, Horse Business Advice, has become incredibly popular within the industry. When she isn't working in her business, she's out playing with her two horses, 11-year-old Irish sport horse JD and 20-year-old Anglo-Arab Fanti. Melody, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Beth.
Well, let's dive into the questions. Melody, what do you love most about working with horses?
What I love about working with horses is there's a couple of things. One of them is the freedom that I feel when I'm around horses or when I'm riding or when I'm doing something with them. I just feel so much freedom and so much, I guess, joy almost. Well, not almost joy, actual joy. So freedom and joy. But then the second thing is that horses come to me with no judgment. They're not judging me. They're not pressuring me. They're not telling me that I should be doing this and I should be doing that. And I just love how horses stay in the moment and they just accept me for who I am in that moment. If I feel like just sitting on a chair and not doing anything, they're up for that. And if I feel like scrubbing them within an inch of their life so they're all pretty and clean, they're also into that. And so I like that horses don't judge me. They're not pressuring me to do something I don't want to do, that they are just accepting me for who I am. And I really love that about horses because, humans, I don't always do that. That's the thing.
This is true. Horses are such a gift to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what's something a horse has taught you that has changed your perspective?
When I was 19, I bought a horse. His name was Omar, and he was a pretty fancy horse. He was a 3/4 Arabian Palomino show horse. We did show horse stuff. We did what was called hacking at the time, show horse ring stuff. We won everything. We had buckets and buckets and buckets of ribbons and awards, and I was die-hard showy. I would go to any length to legally, like I'm not talking about cheating lengths, but any length to make sure that he was clean and make sure that he was fit and make sure that I had the right gear, and I would go that extra mile and I would really fuss about small things because they were so important to me. And I really loved competition and I was competitive. I wasn't unpleasantly competitive. I didn't get disappointed with, if he didn't win something. I was always gracious to judges and gracious to other competitors, but I was out there all the time. Every second weekend, I'm competing up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was full on. Ultimately, Omar got old. He injured himself and I had to retire him. And after a couple of false starts with a couple of different horses, I ended up with Fanti. And when Fanti came into my life, he really struggled to be a competition horse. He looks like a competition horse. He is fancy to look at. 4 white stockings, Arab looking. He's a beautiful horse. So he looked like a show horse. He moved like a show horse. He did not think like a show horse, didn't want to be a show horse, hated the whole show scene. And I struggled for a couple of years with him because I was like trying to mold him into this picture of what I had as what I wanted him to be. And it was so hard because he was also a very anxious floater. So we would put him on the horse float and he would tremble the whole way. And when I would get to an event, he would get off, he would be looking around, he would be stressed to the eyeballs. His adrenaline would be through the roof. And neither of us could possibly enjoy that. So it was one of those things. We'd go out to an event and it'd just be diabolical. And sometimes I'd come home without even competing because I just couldn't even settle him in the Walmart ring. But I kept trying and kept trying and kept trying because I wanted him to be my competition horse. Eventually, I realised that I needed to ride the horse that I had. And the horse that I had didn't want to be a competition horse. There was a bit of grieving involved there. But when I suddenly threw away that, all right, we're not going to go out competing anymore, we're just going to play at home, we're going to do these things, I don't know why it occurred to me to take the bridle off a horse that I found very fractious to ride with a bridle on when I was out. But I took his bridle off and I started riding him bridleless. And the perspective that Phantom showed me was I have to deal with the horse that I have and what that horse wants to do rather than what I want to mold it into. So I had to let go of that competition, let's prepare for the season. Let's, where am I going to qualify? Which event do I have to go to? What gear do I have to have? Oh, I can't put him out in the paddock and get him bitten by someone else because there might be a mark on him for the Royal Show. Can't do that. Cover them from head to toe. I mean, Omar was a Palomino with white stockings, so, you did have to cover them up if you wanted to keep them clean. But Phantom really taught me that I've got to just ride the horse that I have and do the things that that horse wants to do. And it also showed me that I can see there are some people, when let's say their event horse doesn't work out, they sell it and buy another event horse. And so it's this constant cycle of horses going through their lives. And I realised that I'm not that person. So I didn't sell Phantom and buy another show horse. I changed my perspective and I went, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Because once I buy a horse, they tend to stay with me forever. So, yeah. So that's my big perspective change. And it was a big one. It was a really big one.
That is a big one. And what a gift that you gave to him where you finally said, okay, let's figure out what you like, mister.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and that's the thing. I could struggle to walk a straight line out at Adult Riding Club on him safely because he was so fractious, he was so stressed with a bridle on. But at home, I could canter him around the paddock with no bridle and just a bit of string around his neck. That was that moment of realising, wait, it's not just the bridle, it's the pressure of the moment and it's the, me trying to mould him into being something that he's just too stressed to do. He's just, he's a stress head when he's out and about. He doesn't want to do stuff like that. And I think, he also had really low-level kissing spine. We were treating it, and ultimately that is why I've retired him and I don't really ride him very much anymore. But, of course, when you've got a bit of kissing spine and then you have a rider that sticks a bridle on, that instantly puts their head into a position where it's putting extra pressure on those vertebrae that are already slightly touching. So I think also for him taking the bridle off relieved that pain because he could travel with his head lower more comfortably because I didn't trust him enough with a bridle on to ride on a long rein. And that's, perhaps that was a confidence issue with me, but also it was, it's there, so I need to use it. And when it wasn't there, I didn't need to use it. I don't know why I was more confident without a bridle on that horse, but I was.
What made you decide to take the bridle off?
Okay, so somebody suggested to me as a bit of a security blanket to ride with a string. It's like a super thin, it's like a lead rope material but super thin, and it's loose, and to hang on to or just to give myself a bit of extra security because at that time I was still trying to get him to do what I wanted him to do. And if I asked him to canter, sometimes I'd get canter and sometimes I'd get a bucking fit. But more often than not, I would get pitch forward. So instead of smacking him in the mouth with the reins, the suggestion was to use this string. And I jokingly said, maybe I'll just try ride without the bridle and just try with the string. And I don't know what happened, but I think someone then shared a video of somebody on Facebook, and I tagged the person that I'd had that conversation with saying, hey, maybe I should try this. Joke, 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 joke. But then I'm that person, and you know this about me, Beth, I'm that person that goes, now what the hell, I'll give it a shot. Let's try. So I got him into this yard. I left the halter on, but I took everything else off. And I tried to ride him around in the yard, but he just kept going to the gate. And so then somehow I didn't have an arena at that stage. We'd only just moved to this property. So I thought, well, I wonder if it's because we're in the yard and there's a gate. Something possessed me to go, I'll just try in the paddock, the 4-acre paddock, and see what happens. In hindsight, it was probably a little risky, but it worked out fine.
I'm so
glad. And I loved
it.
it.
I'm so glad it did.
Yes.
So it sounds like perhaps your intuition was kicking in even then.
I guess probably it was. And I actually think the point is I didn't recognize that was intuition. In fact, I honestly don't think I recognized what intuition was until I met you. I actually think you taught me to recognize what intuition is and to understand what it was. And I think there's been times where I've looked back on my life and I've gone, that was intuition. But I wouldn't have said it at the time. I would have said I was completely not an intuitive person at all. So you definitely opened a door for me there.
I'm so glad to hear that. That's amazing. So speaking of that, how has your intuition helped you when interacting with horses or with clients?
So I've probably got a story about one of both. So JD, my Irish Sport horse, he's had some challenges along the way. And there's been body challenges and feet challenges. Well, a lot of feet challenges. He's got really tricky feet. And it's really easy to get caught into this is how you deal with that. You know, when you've got tricky feet, you put bar shoes on them, you do this, you do that, you follow this step of processes that other people say that you should do. Or then this alternative is, you rip their shoes off and just let them survive in the paddock with no shoes. And I just had this sense that neither of those options were the right option for him. And, in hindsight, it had been screaming at me for quite some time, but I'd been pushing it down and I'd been trusting the experts and I'd been listening to all the things that other people told me and letting experts guide me. And ultimately, when I went, let's stop, let's stand up for this horse, and this is what I think we should do. And we've gone to glue-on shoes, and this is a fairly recent thing that has happened with him. We went through this whole process. We've been through vets. We've had different farriers, different trimmers. I tried 18 months of barefoot. I tried all this, remedial shoeing, and we made some progress but never really got on top of things. And, of course, as you can imagine, and as you would know, when your horse has got sore feet, the whole body hurts because they're standing funny to relieve the pressure. And he's not a small lad. He's pretty big. He's about 16'2". I don't know. I haven't had him measured for years, but he's probably 16'2", but he'd be 650, 700 kilos for those that do kilos. So he's a big lad. So that also adds to it. And I think ultimately what I did was I just went, I know people are telling me he should be fine barefoot, or he should be fine with these steel shoes, or he should be fine doing this, or he should be fine doing that, or I should retire him, or I should just ignore it all. I just went, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to try these glue-on shoes. I want to try this particular thing, and he is thriving. Hasn't been without its challenges as we figure out the best way for him, which I think is, from what I understand, is part of the process of these glue-on shoes. But even then, my trimmer decided to try him with his hinds barefoot, and I was like, I don't think he's going to cope. And 4 weeks later, she said to me, yeah, you're right, he didn't cope. We went too quickly. And I just it just reminds me that I have to advocate for my horse because I know him best and listen to my instincts and my intuition. And that, I think that is something that's really helped me with him in this situation, is just going, I know everyone else is saying something else, but that's not what I think is right for him. And what I've insisted is I think is right for him has turned out to be really good. So that's probably one story. But then when I think about working with my clients, and when you sent me this question, I did sit and think about it, and I thought, well, do I use intuition with my clients, or am I just business coaching people? And I thought about it, and I thought, you know, people come on Zoom calls with me, and I somehow have this instinct that I know what they need. Sometimes they need to just get shoved forwards and made accountable. I need to push them. I need to set deadlines for them. I need to say, no, you can do this. You know, yes, this sounds hard, but you're going to do it anyway. I don't want to hear excuses. Sometimes they need that. Other times they just want to vent off whatever it is that they have got on their mind. Other times they might need a fresh perspective. And honestly, I had no idea going into business coaching how many people would cry. In fact, sometimes my husband comes home and if he knows that I've had from work, and if he knows that I've had a really busy day with clients, he'll often say to me, did you make anyone cry today?
Oh, no.
Like, don't make them cry. But I didn't realise how vulnerable people would get when they were working with a business coach. But I think because I have been able to tap into my intuition, I can give them that space that if they are feeling fragile, because, you know, often they're just holding it all in, and then when everything just is going pear-shaped for them, and then they just get to the point of telling me all about it and it just all comes out with the tears. Sometimes I can just almost see the expression on their face when they first get onto that Zoom in that first 15 seconds, and I'm like, I know what you need today. I know where this is going. And I can guide them. And I think that has also been trusting my intuition rather than sticking to a formula of let's set goals, let's set accountability, let's do this. Because if you read any educational stuff on business coaching stuff, that's what it says to do. You know, step them through this process. I don't follow processes. Don't make me follow rules. I don't like rules. I just follow whatever the moment gives me.
The solutions light up for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I have to say, one, I'm really proud of you for stepping up and trusting your intuition and standing up for your horse. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I love that you can help your clients that way. And I'm very blessed that I am one of your clients, and you've helped me in so many ways in my life. I can't even measure it. So.
Yeah, and the feeling's mutual. I'm so glad we found each other. We've been great for each other, haven't we?
Absolutely, yes. So going back to the idea of trusting your intuition and really listening, can you describe how you receive the information from your intuition? Is it like just a knowing? Is it a gut feeling? Is it a voice? Is it a smell? You know?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I often listen to people talking about intuition and tapping into words and pictures and images and stuff like that. And I'm like, nah, none of that ever happens to me. I just know. Like, I don't know how I know. I just know. And it's just a knowing. It's not there's no pictures, there's no crystals. I don't know. It's just, I just know.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
I love that.
I don't know how else to describe it. It is just an understanding, just a knowledge, I suppose.
And then it's also the way I describe doing muscle testing, when you can say a statement out loud saying, JD needs glue-on shoes, and you can feel your body saying, yes, this is true. Or you say, JD needs steel shoes, and then you get scrunched up and say, no, this is false. You know, it's that really clear yes, no feeling that you can develop and develop your inner compass that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think I described it as I just know, but I think it's also it feels right or it doesn't feel right. Just like you've said, muscle testing, like I've never felt that confident with doing stuff like that. It's just, it doesn't quite connect for me. But I think I translate it to myself. I translate it to that it either feels right or it doesn't feel right. Something, and I don't know where it feels. Like if you said to me, where in my body does it feel right? I don't know. It just does or it doesn't.
But that's awesome. So you've just mastered it, and you are so clear about it. And that's the key, is as soon as you have that clarity with your intuition, you're unstoppable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
So can you share a transformation story that occurred as a direct result of trusting your intuition, either with yourself, a horse, or another person you were helping?
So, Beth, can I tell you about a time where I didn't listen to my intuition? I think that is a better story. Well, I don't know, maybe not better for everything.
Yes, please do.
So when I bought JD, a lot of my friends were eventing, and I bought JD from an eventing family, and he was bred to event, and he was the right breed and the right everything. And so even though I didn't think that I was going to be an Olympic eventer, I thought, well, I'll just go out and do some, fun level competition. So I'm out with my friends and I'm doing what they're doing and all of that sort of thing. So I think I'd had him about 18 months, and a friend asked me if I wanted to have a jump lesson with her coach, and we'd go together, because I was like, oh, I'm a bit nervous. I was a bit anxious about jumping and hadn't jumped for a very long time. Like I used to jump Omar, but it had probably been 15, 20 years between when I'd been jumping Omar and when I got JD. And so I sort of said, yeah, okay, let's do this. But I'm not jumping really high, and do I have to canter? And, and that was my first sign. Should have listened to myself. If I said to somebody, do I have to canter in a jump lesson? My intuition now kicks me up the arse and says, you idiot, you should never have gone to that lesson. Red flag number one. I then continued to ignore every bit of intuition that was screaming at me. And I remember trotting around that arena, holding my breath, feeling so anxious with these 40-centimetre jumps, 1.5-foot jumps, tiny little jumps on this giant horse who could definitely jump those jumps. It was no issue, but I was just so nervous. No one was forcing me to do it. The friend that I was with was not forcing me to do it. She was trying to be supportive. She was trying to encourage me, but I was trying to fit in. I was trying to be like them, like my friends. I was trying to fit in, where every part of my instinct and my intuition was screaming, don't do this. So you know what's going to happen, right? Coach put us over a dry water tray, so a metal tray that you would normally fill with water to make it into a water jump on a show jump course, but she didn't have water in it. It was dry. The arena had a bit of stone in it, little tiny pebbles. And apparently what happened was we approached the jump in a slow, sluggish trot after sluggishly trotting around a couple of other jumps. And the stones fell off his feet into the dry arena tray, which made a big noise, big metal noise. And here's a green horse. He obviously never experienced that. And he was half asleep, so there was a lesson there for me. And he spooked and catapulted me into the air. The coach said to me that his belly, he jumped so high, he leapt in the air so high that his belly was level with the top of the jump wing. And then they'd estimated that I must have fallen 3 meters because I was catapulted so high into the air. Hit the ground, and all I remember is a terrible noise, and it turned out that it was me screaming because I had broken my pelvis in 3 places, broken a vertebrae, broken my sacrum, broken a rib, broke my face, got a head injury, got a concussion, and 4.5 years later I still have vision issues and back issues as a result. My instinct and intuition was trying to tell me that that was a bad idea, and I ignored it. I pushed that down. I tried to put my fears aside. I tried to act bold on the outside because, you know, if my friend could just like canter around the course and happily jump her horse that she hadn't had very long, what was wrong with me? And that didn't end well. That fall, you asked me to share a transformation story. And when I hear the word transformation, I think something good happens, right? And it's hard to describe how that fall ended up being a good thing for me, but it was, because that fall was the slap in the face for me to stop trying to fit in, to stop taking on what other people say, to stop listening to people saying, oh, he's a great horse, you should be out eventing him, and making me feel like I would then feel guilty that I wasn't. And then the judgment, oh, my kid rides more confidently than you, so I would push myself to prove that I was more confident than that kid. All of that sort of stuff. That fall was the catalyst for me to stop and go, no more. I'm not letting other people tell me what I should be. I'm not letting other people judge me for who I am or who I'm not. And as you know from behind the scenes, I've changed so much about my life since that fall, my attitude to life. I just don't tolerate any bullshit. I don't tolerate judgment. And I am quick to walk away rather than to try and prove that I am what they say I'm not. And whilst that was a really catastrophic fall and it's affected my life negatively in a lot of ways, I still have chronic pain 4.5 years later. My confidence is still significantly lower. And will it ever come back to what I was doing? I don't know. I'm actually okay with where I'm at now, but there's definitely a reservedness in what I do now, and a bit of maybe I should pull myself back and think about, what could happen if I do this crazy thing. And I can see you smiling on the end of the Zoom because you also know that I message you and go, hey, I'm going to do this. And you're like, are you sure you're ready for that? But I do now try and listen to my intuition far more, because that was catastrophic, because I was telling my intuition, bugger off, leave me alone. I'm doing what I think everyone thinks I should be doing. And that was a big lesson, massive lesson. It's the trust your intuition, trust your gut. My gut and intuition was screaming at me to not do that one thing that one day. And the events that, came about were fairly catastrophic for me and very impactful, not only on myself, but on my family, who had to deal with me being seriously injured in the worst possible house in the universe to be injured in, because it's a 2-story split level house. So I couldn't go up and down stairs. So really, really, really taught me. And that was a pivotal moment for me. And that's when I started to listen to my intuition.
Well, I am, of course, really sorry it was such a painful lesson, but I am glad that you have drawn the line in the sand and said no more of that. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, I view that fall now as more of a gift than a curse, because it gave me so much insight into my life, so much insight into the relationships that I had and what they were based on and how important they were or weren't. And I think it's given me the ability to just cut out all of the bull from the rest of my life, from everything. Even in my business, it changed my business because it changed my perspective. Whilst it's given me some body issues that I would rather not have, and it's cost me a bomb in physiotherapy and massage and all of those sorts of things, it's given me something greater. And that is the freedom to be who I am and not give a shit about what anybody else thinks.
And that's one of the things I admire about you. One of the things, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Melody, what do you wish everyone would do when it comes to their horse time?
Slow down. I think everyone needs to slow down. There is nothing I love more than sitting in the paddock. My phone gets left inside. I've got a chair out in the paddock. I go out there. I don't even have I'm going to be out here for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I don't have an agenda. I'm just out there. And the horses come and they hang out with me, and I stay until they choose to leave. So I don't ever leave them. They leave me because it feels rude to me. Like if I go and ask them to be with me, then I feel rude or mean or something, just going, oh, I'm going now. See you later. Because they're there for me. They're holding my space. So I've always made it a rule that I stay until they go.
I love that. And I'm laughing here because I would never leave because Pepper has decided that I have to live with him 24/7 in the field.
Well, I have to admit there have been times where my body started to hurt because my chair in the paddock is made out of wood. And I'm like, JD, can you just go? Because, so sometimes it's 5 minutes and sometimes it's 90 minutes. And, I am so lucky and so grateful that I have a life where I can do that. And look, there are days where I don't necessarily have time for a 90-minute chit-chat with the horses. Somehow they sense that, though, and they don't hang around for that long. But there have been times, and especially within that 12 months straight after my bad fall, I spent a lot of time out in that paddock healing with those horses, and they would spend so much time there and do the craziest, most entertaining things. I would take videos. I've got a video of Phantom sucking his own tongue whilst JD was nibbling Phantom's lip. And they did that for like 10 minutes. And you can hear this.
Oh, my gosh.
Because he's sucking his tongue so loudly. It's hilarious. But I wish that every human being had the opportunity, the time and the presence to just sit and be and not be in a hurry. Because that is the biggest gift that horses can give us, is just that being in the moment and making us stop. And too many people don't allow themselves that time, don't let themselves have that time, think that they're not worth having that time. And I think everyone needs to give themselves more.
I think it's a scary thing for people, especially in today's world, is once they do stop, then they're faced with their feelings.
It is true. It is true. Nothing beats dealing with sad feelings, though, than a horse licking and snotting on your face. And, it's because it's interesting because, my two horses are quite different. Phantom he likes to hang out, but he doesn't really like being patted. So he just wants to be there. And I might boop him on the nose or something, but typically he wants to be right here in my face, but he doesn't want me to touch him. JD has to harass me until I've got hands all over him the whole time. He has to be moving, he has to be touching, but he knows when to push and when not to. And our horses are so good at sensing what you need. And if I'm feeling really sad, I'm really recognize that JD does really super clown things when I'm really sad. He does stuff that I just look at him and go, you're such an idiot. It makes me laugh. He's just hilarious. So he does all of this stuff. He does all these clown-like things because he just knows.
Yeah, they're the most intuitive animals, aren't they?
Absolutely.
So what's one piece of advice that you'd give to your younger self for encouragement?
Listen to your intuition. Yeah, don't wait till you snap yourself in half falling off to actually listen to what your gut is screaming at you that you should be doing something. But, it's around go your own pace, enjoy your moment. Don't be led, don't be put down, don't be driven by other people. Let it come from within. I think that's my advice, is be driven by what lights me up, not what I think other people think I should be doing. Yes. And I think that's the if I look through my life, there have been times where I have been very led or controlled or powered by other people. And I really think that as a younger person, if somebody had pulled me aside and said, no, do your thing your way, do this even more than you do now, I think that would be the advice I'd give myself.
I love that. Melody, what does the phrase, "May the horse be with you always," mean to you?
It is my first of all, I go straight to Star Wars because I'm a Star Wars nut as well. So it reminds me of that Star Wars, the sense that comes behind that, may the force be with you. It's that, acknowledgement of a word of encouragement, a word of support. But when you say, may the horse be with you always, there's two things that come into my mind, and that it reminds me that my horses and I are a team, and it speaks to the unity that I can create with my horses. So it reminds me that we're together, we're a unit, we work together, not that they're my beast, my servant, and not that I'm their servant. Well, actually, I am their servant, but not, it's not the I have to make the horse do what I want it to do. It's that we work together and we figure out what the right thing is. And I think that's what that phrase means to me the most.
I love it.
Yeah.
Melody, thank you again so much for your beautiful insights. I really appreciate your time, and I can't wait for people to hear this.
You are very welcome. Thank you very much for having me, Beth.
You're welcome. And may the horse be with you always.